Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. I took a little break, I guess, of a couple of years, but the first time I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it another go here. So today I just want to talk about a conversation topic that I've had with a couple other readers recently. I think that it's an interesting conversation, so I'd love to hear everybody's opinion, and if you have a different view to me, if you can correct me on if I'm wrong, we'll say that. The conversation topic is the difference between reading nonfiction and reading fiction. I feel like recently nonfiction seems to be the overwhelming popularity. I think that fiction reading is going down, especially because there's other mediums of entertainment such as social media as well as Netflix. So I view reading fiction and nonfiction both as a method of learning, right? But in two different ways. When I look at nonfiction, I look at it as knowledge acquisition. I read a book on, World War II, and now I'm more knowledgeable about that. So whenever I enter in a conversation with someone, I have something to go off of and something for me to make my own deductions on and then go further. If we're going to deal about something ethically in World War II or whatever it was, I can now form my opinion on whatever subject because I've built up a sufficient knowledge base. And then also I can go in other ways and try to figure out other situations and navigate similarly. In contrast, I think that fiction is sort of the complete opposite. I think that it's more about actual self-learning. Whenever I read a book, I try to read it as a blank slate. I don't research too much on the author or anything else like that because it takes away from my sort of experience on it. And how I learn from that is I then read the book, and whatever I retain and what sticks with me the most is more a direct reflection of what's of the utmost importance of me in my life. So I reread The Great Gatsby, I don't know, it must have been a month ago or so, and there was one line in there that the first time going through I didn't necessarily catch. And that line was when Gatsby's showing his house to Daisy for the first time after not seeing her all these years. It was talking about how he reevaluated the worth of all the items in his house based on how much she appreciated them. And I realized at the time I was trying to struggle with this difference between, why we want such materialistic things, and there's something so true about that in terms of how much we value certain things is not necessarily as much, though it is correlated to how much it costs, but also how much people view us in terms of the luxury of whatever item that is. So that was a weird experience for me, and when they say like nobody reads the same book, nobody reads the same book twice because you're always growing as an individual. In contrast, the first time I read it, the line that stuck out to me was, I read it in high school, and it was a line of Gatsby smile, only understanding you as much as you wish to be understood. And I think that there's an interesting time when you're trying to put up some sort of persona, you're trying to discover yourself, you're trying to get people to view you in a certain manner, and in a fashion you're also okay with viewing them in a certain manner because you're both trying to achieve the same thing. And obviously, it's not a great way of going about things. Like Gatsby's an example of that. Then, he dies in the book. Sorry, spoiler alert. So, maybe a growing phase in that regard. People talk about different mediums of art, and fiction is really one of the best ones to do this because you have the most limited amount of information there present. So when you watch a movie, the view of it and the actors and the accents are all these things that kind of are given to you. Whereas when you're reading, you have to create all those things in your head, and therefore it curates more of an actual experience in terms of your world, and it gives more rise to having these kind of realizations of what you view of importance. This is where I think that education is really failing us, right? Because at least in North America and Canada, we're judged on this knowledge base. I don't believe that that's the greatest benefit you can get out of reading. I think that it is this kind of self-knowledge and this self-journey of figuring out yourself, and it's kind of interesting because I really don't know if there's another phenomenon of gauging these things. So if you disagree with me, if you agree with me or anything like that, please leave a comment. I'd love to have this discussion. And if there's any other questions that you'd be interested in hearing my opinion on, I'd love to curate that conversation. Thanks for your time. Also, I before was trying to do two separate, social medias, one for my personal life and the other one for when I was doing these videos. I decided just to amalgamate those, so I just used my personal one, and I've kind of updated the information in terms of if you want to, follow me on any of these social media platforms or just get to know me better. It's all there, so it's in the description if you want. Yeah, thanks for your time and have a nice day.